I tried to tell you about orangutans. I did say if something like this ever flips a switch, it's gonna be a bad time for everyone. But it took this ginger gorilla getting his lick back on camera for y'all to believe me. Nah, but like, all jokes aside, orangutans aren't aggressive, like, at all. Like, thank God whoever designed them for that, because it would be terrifying. But orangutans almost never choose violence, not even with each other. The only time you'll see an orangutan get active is if a male runs into another adult male, and even then it's a bunch of bluffing and displaying and just being loud to prove a point. Hands rarely get thrown. In fact, there are no recorded cases of a wild orangutan killing a human. They're just plus-size pacifists. So one of two things happened here. One, that's an orangutan trying to play. Or two, and I'm willing to bet money this is what actually happened. The man was provoking the orangutan like an idiot and getting in his face, but the person behind the camera didn't hit record until the orangutan decided he had enough. And in situations like this, I'm always going to look at the guy outside the cage before I look at the animal in it. And also, just personally, I don't love any article of clothing that much. I would have just negotiated my shirt, but you know, that's just me. So update to the whole orangutan debacle. Turns out I was right. Turns out this man, well, 19-year-old, hopped the enclosure fence and started taunting the big ape, literally for clout. Bro wanted to go viral and the orangutan said, yeah, I can show you the way. Almost cost him an arm and a leg, but mans did numbers on Twitter. Not to mention the orangutan was on recruit difficulty, because I watched that whole video and I counted at least 3 times where he could have gotten his folded. Jokes aside, this pissed me off for a lot of reasons. First of all, if that orangutan would have killed him, not even, if he would have broken his arm, what do you think the headlines would have been? Probably something like, vicious orangutan goes crazy and brutally mauls man. When it really should be, wannabe influencer gets exactly what he asked for as wild animal goes wild animal. Not to mention, if it got to that point, the zoo 100% would have taken out the orang to save the guy. Even though orangutans are endangered and dumbasses on the internet are kind of overpopulating. And I just know Harambe was watching from the beyond like, ain't that some bullshit? It takes years for keepers to gain the trust of an animal like that, and this man managed to destroy it all in less than 10 seconds. I'll say one thing though, he chose the right ape to try this with. If he would have tried the gimmicks with a gorilla or worse, a chimp, yeah, none of us would have seen that video. Or at least not without a Tor browser, because this would have turned into a snuff film. Now what if I told you someone managed to do something even stupider than this? Warning, this will piss you off. Meet this woman whose name I'm not gonna say because I don't want to get sued. And she didn't just get too close to an enclosure, nah, she decided to walk up in it like she paid rent. So 2 things. 1, this was in Texas, so Florida you can unclench. And 2, those are spider monkeys. This is a spider monkey. I don't know what kind of game she thinks she's playing, but she could have lost badly. One wrong move and they could have her looking like she could unlock Voldemort's phone. And if that weren't enough, which it obviously was, she even decided to feed the monkeys Cheetos. Not even like the original ones, nah, she went flaming hot. I don't think I need to tell you why that's bad. Then again, someone like her is able to vote, so... Yeah, they tell you not to feed wild animals because the food we eat can make them violently sick, especially if it's flaming hot. The woman was kicked out of the zoo and allegedly charged with criminal trespass. She also lost her job at a law firm, which at first made me happy, but then made me seriously question just how she got that far. Now that I think about it, that's probably where she got her lawyers from. You know who the she is, I don't gotta say her name. And after going viral, she swiftly received the online spanking that comes with it. After all the backlash, she finally released a statement where she was actually apologetic and really seemed to understand the gravity of, you know I'm lying, right? Nah, instead this woman who somehow survived 26 trips around the sun still doesn't think she did anything wrong because in her words, nobody got hurt. I'm sure the monkeys wish they could have that one back. But she did learn at least one valuable lesson. To keep her Cheetos to herself. My mom doesn't like when I curse on the internet, so I'm gonna end it right there. If you've seen this tiger before, you've probably been lied to. This tiger went viral a few years ago for having Down syndrome, which caused obvious facial deformities. People love this pug-faced predator so much that they used him to spread awareness. Except, he never had it, and the truth was actually way worse. See, the thing is, white tigers are rare, like 1 in 10,000 type rare, and most don't survive longer than a year in the wild because if you can't camouflage, you're probably gonna starve. White tigers are also really popular for animal traffickers selling them on the very much illegal exotic pet market. Yeah, screw those guys, by the way. So the easiest way to breed white tigers is to have 2 white tigers hook up so their recessive genes can produce another white tiger. The problem is, well, there's a lot of problems actually, but the biggest one is that because Caucasian carnivores are so rare, the ones they breed are often related, which is how they get more inbred than a family reunion. Kenny the tiger didn't have Down syndrome. He was a twin-cest baby whose parents were siblings, and most of his actual siblings became past tense the moment they were born. The guy that bred him tried to lie and say he looked like that from smashing his face into a wall a bunch of times as a cub. Yeah, Kenny was rescued and taken to an animal sanctuary in Arkansas, along with his brother who was cross-eyed, because that's exactly the kind of thing that happens when you have an aunt mom and an uncle dad. The sanctuary took care of Kenny for as long as they could until he eventually passed away at the age of 10 to melanoma. It's a sad story, but it could have been worse. R.I.P. Kenny, you deserved way better than you got.
Booty rocking everywhere. Booty
A lot of people sent me this, so I just wanted to point out two things. So I'm gonna play it back, try and see if you can notice what it is.
Bring it back to me. It's a dance floor.
So that slow blink is actually the universal sign that a cat is relaxed and at ease. We've seen this with bigger cats like lions and tigers, but even pet cats will use this as a gesture of trust. To the point where a lot of animal shelters will decide whether a cat's safe to handle based on whether it slow blinks or not. And it works both ways. You can pretty much slow blink at your pet cat and it's like their version of a smile. And the second thing is right at the end the jaguar rolled over on her back. The underbelly is the most vulnerable part of a cat, so them exposing it like that is the ultimate sign of trust. It doesn't always mean they want you to touch them, it's more them trying to tell you that they're comfortable around you. I don't know what you did, but keep doing it because that cat loves you. So King Julian would actually be a queen. And not in like a yassified way, but in real life, ringtail lemur society is female dominated. Lady lemurs assert their dominance by bullying the low-ranking males at every opportunity. And they usually do this by chasing them around, grabbing them, and biting them. But their favorite way to flex on the males is by straight up snatching any food out of their hands. Or in this case, a stick. And they don't even have to be hungry, sometimes they'll go out of their way to do it just for the feminism of it all. Also, lemurs smell so bad that they managed to weaponize it. As in they'll rub their scent glands all over their tails as a way to build their ammo and then pretty much just throw their body odor around. Also, they're much more homicidal than the movie wants you to believe. There was a study done on 1,000 animals to see which one was more likely to kill their own kind. Meerkats were number one, since about 19% of meerkat deaths were caused by another meerkat. Lemurs were not far behind, with up to 17% of lemur obituaries being co-signed by their own kind. And a lot of it comes from females kidnapping and abandoning babies and males straight up aborting them. Moral of this video, King Julian was a hyper-homicidal, child-endangering, BL-blasting drag queen. So you probably know the story of Harambe, but not enough people know the story of Jambo. So this goes all the way back to 1986. 5-year-old Levin Merritt was excited to go to the zoo with his family. But when he got to the gorilla pen, bro got a little too excited. While leaning over to get a better look, he lost his balance and fell 20 feet straight down, breaking his arm, fracturing his skull, and knocking himself out cold. When Levin regained consciousness, he awoke to Jambo, a 400-pound silverback gorilla looming over him. The kid understandably screamed, and that momentarily freaked out Jambo, and witnesses thought this was going to end in the worst way possible. Jambo protectively stood over the child and had been gently stroking his back as he was unconscious. Jambo even kept other gorillas away when they got curious and tried approaching the boy. It became clear to everyone that Jambo was protecting Levin like he was one of his 20 kids. Oh yeah, Jambo was like that. When Levin started crying, Jambo calmly led the other gorillas to a small hut in the other corner of the pen, which was when paramedics were able to rescue the boy, who ended up making a full recovery. But the funny thing is, this incident might have saved gorillas in general, because back then people were terrified of and even hated gorillas. King Kong didn't help. But after the video of Jambo looking after the fallen boy went viral, and this was back in the 80s, viral was a big deal. The public perception of gorillas did a full 180. Now you're probably wondering what was the difference between this and Harambe, and the answer is actually depressing. With Harambe, people were screaming, throwing objects to distract them, when all they were doing was freaking the big ape out even more. Harambe got agitated, and that's why they ended up doing what they did. Had the people not screamed at him, Harambe wouldn't have gotten so agitated, he'd still be alive, and the pandemic never would have happened. So I actually have a lot of thoughts on the Harambe situation, and you're probably not gonna like them. So if you don't know about Harambe, give the phone back to your mom. TikTok's no place for a 5-year-old. A Spark Notes version. Kid fell into gorilla pen, gorilla goes up to the kid, gorilla starts getting agitated, zoo officials got a rifle and ended him. The gorilla, not the, yeah. And the big question is, should they have murked Harambe, especially when he didn't seem like an immediate threat to the child? Here's the thing, they could have tranquilized him, but that easily could have backfired. Think about it, it's already a stressful environment. You got people screaming and throwing things at you, and that's after a child-shaped object just got airdropped into your living room. Getting shot with a tranq would only amp him up even more. I want y'all to watch this video. Animals don't understand what a tranquilizer is. As far as they're concerned, you just tried them. And in the 5 minutes it would have taken to work, Harambe could have raised absolute hell. And if a 400-pound Harambe seriously injured or even deleted the kid, that zoo is done for. Thus technically the kid shouldn't have been able to get into the gorilla enclosure in the first place. It's stupid, but it's like a balcony. You shouldn't have to tell a fully functional human being not to jump off a balcony, but if one does and there are no rails, the owner of that building is still getting slapped with a violation. So if a 3-year-old managed to get into the gorilla pen and then got deleted while there are armed zoo officials present, that zoo is finished. The zoo would get sued to oblivion and all the animals would get relocated and have to find a new place. And as an animal with a human body count, Harambe would almost certainly get turned into a hashtag anyway. It sounds like I'm taking the zoo side here, I'm not. In a situation that messed up, there is no right answer. Someone was gonna lose. Just sucks that the someone had to be the animal whose only crime was literally just being an animal. But yeah, glad I didn't pull the trigger. You're absolutely right, and I was saving this story for last on purpose. This is Binti Joi. She's a western lowland gorilla which actually happens to be critically endangered. Also, she's the niece of this gorilla Coco. Didn't know that before. This story goes all the way back to 1996 in a Brookfield Zoo just outside Chicago. A small child was excited to see the gorillas and as a result, fell into the enclosure 25 feet straight down. How so many fetuses end up in gorilla pens is beyond me. The 3-year-old broke his hand, was knocked out, and was bleeding heavily out the side of his face. And while all the other gorillas seemed confused and unsure of what to do, Binti went right up to the fallen boy. To everyone's shock, Binti, who was already a mother at this point, cradled the injured boy in her arms and even seemed like she was looking around for someone to help. Then, with her own 17-month-old hanging on her back, Binti carried him across the enclosure over to a door where zookeepers could get to him and gently laid him down. But here's the part a lot of people don't realize. As a new mother, Binti had learned to hand off her newborn daughter over to zookeepers so they could get her examined by vets. Binti did the same exact thing here, treating this boy she'd never met before like he was one of her own. But there might be another reason why she did this. You see, Binti was actually abandoned by her own mother when she was born and had to be hand-raised by humans. And when Binti became a mom, it was those same people that taught her how to care for her baby by using dolls. This story didn't just go viral, it went mid-90s viral, and it almost single-handedly changed the way a lot of people see gorillas. And in case you were wondering, Binti is still very much alive in the same Brookfield Zoo where she turned 34 in March. As for the baby gorilla on her back while she saved the little boy, that was her daughter Kula, who's 25 now and has a baby of her own, which makes Binti a grandmother. God bless you, Binti.